Last week, I was in San Francisco for OpenAI's Dev Day. I'm riding there in a car with no driver, wearing glasses that can record what I see, and heading to this event that might define the next decade of our lives. Now, OpenAI had a bunch of big releases on Dev Day, but the most important takeaway for me, the thing that I discovered and experienced, the thing that other developers I spoke with had discovered and experienced as well, is actually something that I think you can't really gather from watching the recordings and the replays. Actually, it's something that I feel is not really communicated at all. That's what I hope to share with you today to help better prepare you for this quickly changing world. You could definitely feel the excitement in the air, all the developers and founders excited to see what's next. And OpenAI, I think in some ways, didn't disappoint. There were all these new things that came out, not just new features, but there is this promise of an entire ecosystem around ChatGPT, the agent builder platform, the GPT-5 Pro API, and the Sora 2 API. First, I'm going to get into what OpenAI actually released, why it's important or not important for you, and then we'll cover what I think is the biggest takeaway from this whole event. ChatGPT can now run apps inside itself. There is this new application ecosystem and app store that is kind of OpenAI's second attempt after the GPT store. And I think it is a better and stronger attempt. You basically now have the ability to use these applications inside ChatGPT. So before, GPT Store was a custom GPT, basically a custom prompt and maybe some knowledge files. You could attach tools, but in practice, most developers did not actually understand how to implement that. So this new apps SDK is going to allow developers to build an experience where ChatGPT actually goes and opens your app inside ChatGPT, can do something there for you, and then have that in the context of the conversation. So there is undoubtedly some powerful use cases for something like this. At the same time, I'm a little bit hesitant. Like inside my application, Heights platform, we've already built a very capable, probably much more capable Copilot assistant for our creators that can take actions for them inside the platform. And I kind of don't want people trying to use my platform inside ChatGPT and the limitations that are going to be around that. But at the same time, it would be really nice if a customer discovers me or prefers to use my platform in that way. And so that could be useful. I see that. I think the main important part about this apps ecosystem is that it's going to help consumers be better educated on what ChatGPT and what AI can actually do for them, because the idea still of using AI as this kind of Copilot assistant, as opposed to just having a conversation with it or asking it questions, is still new to many people. Then next is this idea of Agent Kit and this agents platform that OpenAI announced. And this in itself, I think for most developers is not really the most exciting thing. My comment on this would basically be that if you already have like an N8N workflow, I've made a video on some of the N8N workflows that I have in my business using AI. And so like, if you have something like that, there is essentially no reason to switch and try to rebuild that, if you even can rebuild that in this new agents platform from OpenAI. However, the value I see in this is for like the enterprises. So the companies that were basically approaching this before, where they were at the moment of, hey, people are talking about these agents. Like, how do we do this? I don't know how to do this. What do we do? This gives them an easy solution, an affordable solution that they can quickly implement something like this and kind of have the basics on their own, so they can have their own kind of Copilot agent embedded into their product. And so if you don't have that already, if you want to start creating that, if you're not technical, this is a great tool to allow you to do that. But essentially my comment would be that what's interesting about this whole thing is, in general, features that come out in ChatGPT are not like groundbreaking, bleeding edge features. It's often that developers of applications will have already implemented many of these things well before something like that gets released inside ChatGPT directly. And so if what comes out in ChatGPT and what comes out by OpenAI for these interfaces like the agents platform is like brand new to you, then you could consider that you're kind of actually behind. But that's okay. We're here to learn. And if this is useful to you, then that's great, because you could save a lot of pain and hassle that developers and everyone went through the last couple of years trying to figure out how to build this on their own. So essentially my takeaway for Agent Builder is, if this is useful for you now, if you saw it and are like, wow, this is going to help me build some things that I couldn't do before, then I would say definitely take advantage of that and start taking advantage of that quickly. quickly because it's going to provide you value to have these agents who are able to either do things for you or for your customers, but it's not something that is like a groundbreaking tool. What developers kind of got is access to GPT-5 Pro in the API. So now when we need that for the hardest kind of questions or things that we have around coding or things like that, we can use that. It's very expensive, but it's available, which is nice. I think the piece that was released that we'll see the most long-term impact from is the Sora 2 API. And it's kind of yet to be seen what people will actually do with that. But the talk that OpenAI gave, which I believe is going to be on YouTube soon, if it's not already, about how their team was using the Sora 2 API was really, really interesting, because essentially they built this storyboarding tool with a company in London that they're producing movies and everything. And you have this storyboarding process where you write out the scenes and describe the characters and the props and the locations of everything of that scene. And what they did is they said they built this at this kind of internal hackathon in 48 hours, where you would take a drawing that you made, you would add that drawing to the row in the storyboard, you would describe it with a prompt, and then you would check the characters and locations or props that were related to that new drawing that you put in. And you can do this and repeat this for the different scenes that you make. Then it will generate draft images, high quality images with the image generation API. And then finally, you can pick the best of those images and it would generate a video. And the video is done with the Sora 2 API. But where this gets really crazy is now you can make the video for every scene. And the video has the consistent character that you've created and the consistent props and locations. And now you've essentially just composed this little mini short film or movie, and maybe it's not the best quality. Maybe you're gonna even throw it out and still produce things manually. But the idea that like an individual can now do that on their own, and that the team at OpenAI, a couple people were able to build the software to even make that possible in 48 hours is really impressive. And I think there are going to be so many creative tools around this in the future. Imagine like your kids today, like a few years from now, they will have not like a Windows Movie Maker to try to make a fun video or something for a school project, but actually be able to make like a legitimate looking movie that looks better than a lot of the old like 3D kind of movies that we might have had. Much of what I just shared, you could probably gather if you watch the keynote replay, if you watch the recordings of some of the talks that happened there. But now I want to get into what was really the important takeaway for me. The thing that I learned from talking with these other developers that I don't think you could gather from that. I had a great experience to be able to meet some people that I hadn't been able to meet in real life before. I only knew them on X. I was able to sit in on the live podcast recording of The Rundown, where Rowan interviewed Sam Altman, and that was really cool, being in the room there with Sam and only about 20 other people. What also happened is this was San Francisco's Tech Week. OpenAI Dev Day was not the only event that was happening. There were all these different events happening. I went to a couple other events as well and spoke with some developers there. And through most of this, the developers that I spoke with at least kind of all had these same feelings. Where I think I'll tell this story is during the keynote, if you notice, there was one portion where OpenAI announced some of the biggest users of their API. The companies and individuals who had used 1 trillion tokens, 100 billion tokens, and 10 billion tokens. And they had that list there up on the screen. Now, the majority of what they showed there was not individuals, but like large companies. And like they showed an individual's name who was representing like the account holder or the founder or things like that on their OpenAI API account. What was really interesting was not the fact that we had a company that had now used 1 trillion tokens, but for me was the fact that that list was actually not very big. And so I don't say this in a way to downplay what anybody used. I don't say this in a way to make it sound like, oh, we're not actually using AI, it's not valuable. What I am trying to describe actually is the opposite, and the rapid growth that I think is going to happen, and almost how silly that list may look compared to next year. Because currently I'm using about 500 million tokens per month, approaching near 1 billion tokens per month. I'm sometimes more than 30 million tokens per day on average on the days I'm really using stuff. And when I say that, I'm not talking about, oh, the thousands of users on my platform, that's how much they're using. No, me as an individual, that's how many tokens I'm using. And so next year, I could be on that list myself. And I don't think I'm so special or unique. There's a lot of developers I talk to who were getting to this point as well in their usage. And so the people who have kind of unlocked this capability where an agent is so useful to them that they're able to just continuously use more tokens like this is, I think, a great example of where we're getting to with AI and what everybody should be kind of anticipating, even if it's not capable in the same way for you just yet. I think the biggest users, the people who are getting these numbers of token usage and all that, it is typically going to be developers and coders that uses just a lot of tokens of going through all the text in the code. So my mindset and kind of approach with this is, number one, I expect to use much more AI in the future. Number two is, right now, even, there is more code written by my AI agents this year than myself. And I also expect that to continue. I expect it to become so crazy that a year from now or so, at least in the world of like web applications, to say to somebody, oh, I wrote code by hand, it would be like, why did you do that? Are you some kind of caveman? To like, AI is writing more code for me than I can even possibly be able to read. It's really weird how quickly the workflow has evolved in this particular space, but I think it's a good example and a good indicator to help those in other industries be ready to adapt. To better articulate this and hopefully address some concerns, because I know there's a number of people out there who are still of the opinion that, oh, AI can't do anything, there's going to be all these bugs. The majority of the code that is released to my software today is written by AI. It's written by AI agents. Not only that, but it's written by an AI agent that I created, and it's used by thousands and thousands of people every single day. So if you told me a couple of years ago when GPT-4 came out that today I would be at the point that I had built my own AI coding agent tool that is going to write all of my software for me, I would say, like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that is insane. But that's where we're at right now. And I don't think of myself as some magically like talented developer. I barely even think of myself as a developer. I think of myself more as a designer and just this product builder and entrepreneur. But that's where we're at right now with the capability of these AI agents. So me and some of the others I've talked to, instead of having this, I guess, calmness about, wow, now we get to relax because AI is doing everything for us, it's actually the opposite. It's actually this anxiety of, wait, I need to make sure that I have some agents running for me in the background right now, that I'm not wasting the potential of what I could be creating. And I think the workflows that we have are all going to continue to change. But overall, the big takeaway is, if you're not a software developer, if you're not in the space that's being impacted in the same way yet, the world of software development, I think, is a really good example of what may be coming to other industries as well, and how you could prepare yourself to realize that, okay, if in the future I'm going to be able to have these agents to help me and I'm going to be able to command and control them, what does my work look like? That's what I would have you kind of ask yourself. And for me, the answer for that, and in my role in doing all this, is it's not just prompting, but I think the way to better describe this and how the workflow works and where's the value of a human today is to have the ability to communicate intent to kind of steer the attention of these agents. Because anybody can go and say, hey, build me an app, and build me an app that makes $1 billion, right? That's the prompt, right? Who knows when something like that will happen, but that is not the right way to build an actual product of value. Because what makes something valuable usually is the tens of thousands of small decisions that went into it to make it somehow uniquely better. And if you ask AI to handle all of those things, then you're going to end up with this regression to whatever is average, nothing in particularly good, especially if your role is to actually build the product, right? And so what you have to learn to do is understand what's in your head and how you can communicate that, and then how you can communicate that at scale. And stop thinking about, hey, this is the one only task that I want to work on today, and instead try to lay out all of those tasks, try to more quickly clarify those tasks with the help of AI, and then use that to be able to produce more than you could before. Imagine that you have this team of as many employees as you need at your disposal, and your only kind of requirement is being able to delegate to them fast enough. It's not cost, it's not some logistics or time, it is just being able to delegate your intent fast enough. So to wrap it up, the future is here. maybe just not yet immediately visible. I'm excited for this world of AI, but let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Let me know if you feel your role will change and how it will, if at all. If you want to learn more about the types of businesses that I've been building with the help of AI, take a look at heightsplatform.com. That's our platform for creators and entrepreneurs to build and sell knowledge programs and community memberships. And take a look at latchloop.com. That is our AI coding agent. What started as this internal tool to help us build our products is something that we're now releasing to the public, and it is tentatively described as the vibe coding tool for professionals. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more from me, please remember to like and subscribe.